is Kerilyn Schewel. I am co-director of the Duke program on climate, resilience, and mobility, and I'm a lecturing fellow in the Sanford School of Public Policy.
Yeah, Neil Adger. I'm a professor in geography, which is in the science faculty here at the University of Exeter in the UK.
Hi, my name is Rika Preiser. I'm a professor at the Center for Sustainability Transitions in Stellenbosch, South Africa, where I also hold the UNESCO chair in Complexity and Transformative African Futures.
So we are organizing a PhD academy. This is targeting PhD researchers, but also postdocs or early career researchers who are interested in thinking together with us about the future of rural places. We'll be thinking about this question from the lens of sustainability transitions, migration as adaptation, and how we can strengthen sustainable food systems. So we have, very different faculty bringing their own perspectives to the table, and we'll have a week together with lectures, with workshops, and the opportunity for PhD students to also workshop their own materials with the group.
Let me add, the future of rural places is really important. It's rural places and rural economy, but throughout this we will be training, methodological training. We're going to look, for example, at systems analysis and complexity. We're going to look at what place means. We're going to look at the role of place and identity. We're going to talk about well-being and lots of other new and emerging concepts from across the natural and social sciences that are relevant to futures, to rural futures as well as rural presence.
So my topic really that I'll be covering is the notion of systems thinking, worldviews, and sustainability transitions. And I think that's really quite exciting because allowing us to see the world differently and allowing us to see the challenges that we are facing differently from a holistic perspective, from an interlinked perspective, allows us to kind of also think about how change happens differently. So I think that's why the notion of worldviews and transitions fit very nicely together, so that we can, because I think one of the gaps really in our policy making and decision making and actioning these days is that there's our ideas about the world and what we want to bring about, and then there's our plans. And often these things also don't meet or don't take into consideration the interconnectedness of human nature interactions. And I think that's really exciting of this course, is that we're going to look at what does it mean when we say that these things are interconnected, and what are the dynamics and the features of things that are dynamic. And then this notion of futures also is to have a practical experience of thinking about futures also as dynamic and ever changing, and we'll use some methods with which we can do see the world anew through kind of a systems thinking lens, but also then apply that very directly with doing some little exercises that are really interesting to reimagine change making or transitions through a futures lens.
So I'll be thinking about the relationship between migration and development in rural places, and trying to think together about what are the logics of different strategies for development that are shaping outcomes in rural places, and to make those visible, and then to think about the connections with migration and adaptation. Lee Miller, who is another faculty joining the group from Duke University, he brings expertise in environmental and food policy, and with a focus on agriculture. And so he will be helping us think about, what do we mean when we say sustainable agriculture or regenerative agriculture? And as part of the week together, we'll actually be doing a field trip to a small farm outside of Venice, and talk together and even do a little work on the farm to put some of these ideas in practice.
And on a couple of days, I'll be leading with Ricardo Safra de Campos, another political demographer here at the University of Exeter. And we're looking at the sustainability of rural futures. So we do go back to basics of what constitutes sustainability, what constitutes a good life, what constitutes dignity and freedom, and how these and how health, physical and perceived and mental aspects of health interact with nature, interact with place and identity. We'll be looking at new and emerging concepts in this and dealing with the methods to measure well-being and across a range of different contexts that Rika and Kerilyn have been dealing with and we will be dealing with on the ground. And these include observational methods, i.e. how to measure things that are out there in the real world, and also action research, how to bring about sustainable rural futures. Students will be partway through their PhDs, so you'll be fizzing with ideas. You will have your own ideas. You'll have been lots of direction from your PhD panels and supervisors. What we hope to do is to put that in context, not to question your own research designs and your own potential dissertations or theses, but to give you, to broaden that and give you ideas, give you concepts and give you methods and techniques that you can potentially use in your research going forward. We don't expect students to come with fully formed ideas. We don't expect students to come with data, but we will be doing exercises where we stretch you all and hopefully lots of peer-to-peer learning, including that's ourselves as peers. It'll be a learning community ourselves on part of that journey.
I mean, maybe the only thing to add is that there'll be dedicated time for each participant to workshop a chapter, an idea, a methodology with the group. And so it's an opportunity for them to get feedback on their work from an interdisciplinary group. So I think that's very valuable.
In a safe and supportive space as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's quite important.
Yeah, I think it's during one's own career and journey, looking back at very transformative experiences and events in my own life was being able to attend such an international meeting of peers and fellow scholars and mentors. It allows you to kind of just, I think, connect your own work with a bigger field of knowledge and the methods, and that you don't feel like you're busy with your own little problem in such a way that you kind of lose scope of what's out there in the world, and that you feel like your research is really cutting edge or relevant. And to be able to kind of have this broader network of scholars with which you can connect. And often those scholars that I've met on summer schools like this, or international schools like this, we're still colleagues today. Even we've published together even after those, having met maybe 10 years ago on such an event. So I think the outcomes are also very intangible, but very, very shaping and real for the for your career going on to the future. And maybe I can just also say from an African perspective, I'm really interested and excited for possible scholars from Africa to join and think about this notion of the rural from a even broader perspective, because it's such an, often we think that rural spaces only exist in Africa, and I'm really excited to share with students to kind of have this experience of Venice, which is kind of a hub and a world city. And also to experience, how do we think about this notion of, a rural northern city, and what that can mean and how they can also shape their own conceptions of what a rural future could look like, or many different rural futures actually.
I learned about this opportunity to have a week together in beautiful Venice at VIU on this incredible campus. And to get to reach out to scholars who were at other institutions. Both Rika and Neil, I know their work, but to get to spend a week with them is itself, wonderful for me. And the idea of being able to create this space for PhD students, like Rika was saying, to have a week together, to go in depth, in our thought and really form those connections. I think that's really, really valuable. And VIU brings this incredible international network that we can draw upon. It has resources to support this PhD academy. And so it was an opportunity that I didn't want to miss out on. And I think others won't want to either.
I'd like to what actually what Rika said, that some of these opportunities are absolutely formative for everyone involved. And certainly it's one of my favorite things to do, which is to have intense time thinking through ideas, learning from other young scholars. We're all young scholars. We're only all at the start of our learning journeys, sort of into these areas. It's also a pretty critical time. We're in a critical decade as we transition away from fossil fuels, we transition to sustainable futures. We need the human capital. We need people to be well trained, to be thinking through these things broadly rather than taking narrow contributions to knowledge through their PhDs. We want to broaden all of our horizons to see how solutions are integrative, how they're socially embedded, and how our lack of imagination is actually constraining us in actually finding sustainable rural futures. So totally excited for this one.
Absolutely. I think that just says it all. And also, I think often these kinds of experiences, or if you have to kind of think about internationalization from your own university perspective, often those are, you have to come about through having to put up, contracts and logistics and get people together. And this was such a beautiful experience of just an invitation and, being curated and invited to work together in a way that that's been so supportive and generative up to now. It's been really wonderful. And just to have time out and to put time out to dedicate to thinking together, working together in a space that's been specifically set up for that. I think there's a lot to be said for that, and I'm looking very much forward to that.
Can I say I'm also looking forward to traveling there by train, to performing this in a sustainable manner. So the journey to Venice is part of the appeal, as well as for those of us based in Europe who can travel overland to Venice, it's part of the appeal of this as well.